Check. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome you to the 6th edition of the Energy and Environment Conclave, the Energy Sustainability Conclave 2013. May we request Mr. Kollul Dotto, President of the Bengal Chamber, to please escort Ms. Sri Monish Gupta, Honorable Minister in Charge, Power and Non-Conventional Energy Sources, Government of West Bengal, to the dais. May you also request Sri Shunil Mitra, former Revenue and Finance Secretary, Government of India, and former Power Secretary, Government of West Bengal, to come to the dais, please. Mr. Phil Marker, Councillor and Head, Energy, Climate and Growth Unit, British High Commission, New Delhi. May we request you, sir, to please come to the dais. May we also request Mr. P. Roy, Director General, the Bengal Chamber, and Mr. Arun Kumar Mukherjee, Chairperson, Energy and Environment Committee of the Bengal Chamber, to come to the dais. Dr. Kirit Parekh, former Member Planning Commission and Chairman Integrated Research and Action for Development, is on his way from the airport, so we are expecting him anytime. May we request Mr. Kollul Dotto, President of the Bengal Chamber, to please come to the podium.
Good morning. Mr. Manish Gupta, Honorable Minister in Charge, Power, Non-Conventional Energy Resource, Government of West Bengal. Mr. Shunil Mitra, former Revenue and Finance Secretary, Government of India. Mr. Parker, Councillor of Head Energy, Climate and Growth Unit, British High Commission, New Delhi. Mr. Mukherjee, our Head of our Energy Subcommittee. And Mr. Roy, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you all to the 6th edition of Eastern Region's largest and most relevant forum on energy sustainability, environment management, and climate change mitigation. The Environment and Energy Conclave. The event stands testimony to the Chamber's commitment to sustainable development and need for balancing industrial growth with the ecology stability. Year after year, we have presented this conclave, and today it has transformed into an international forum for sharing business and technology best practices in energy and environment management and for policy advocacy. This year, apart from India, we have speakers from Australia, Canada, Germany, and UK, sharing their expert insight on a number of areas from enabling government policies to state-of-the-art clean technology application, energy conservation measures, and best practices in energy and environment management. We have also been encouraged in this journey by our distinguished speakers who have come from all over India and from overseas. We are delighted and privileged to have with us some iconic names in Indian energy and indeed economic policy realm of gracing this conclave. The need for energy sustainability conclave in today's context is more than ever, and focus of energy security, empowering the energy for future is also very relevant in the contemporary scenario. We are confronted with three compulsions: climatic changes, shortage of fossil fuel reserve, and the need to have cheaper alternative to fossil fuels coupled with conservation practices for energy. The bottom line is, because of their energy density and use, fossil fuels remain the best energy source. It is estimated that USD 30 trillion worth of fossil fuel are still buried in the earth, and almost 2,800 gigatons of carbon locked up in fossil fuels underground. Many are saying we can emit another 565 gigatons of CO2 and still keep the warming 2 degrees centigrade. In the year 2011-12, approximately 31.6 gigatons of CO2 were emitted worldwide. Atmospheric CO2 concentration during pre-industrial times were 280 ppm, which has risen to about 400 ppm currently. Almost 26% of this increase is attributed to the energy sector and 13.1% from the transport. Yet, for a country like India, which depends on the and is likely to depend on 20 years hence on fossil fuels, mostly coal, for its bulk energy consumption, low availability and supply side constraint of fossil fuels, inefficiencies in combustion, safety issues in nuclear energy, and still high, although decreasing cost of generation in renewable force, us in thinking about the security of our energy supply ever more. In such scenario, to talk about sustainability in the Indian energy sector is to talk about the energy security of India, an issue of paramount importance for the nation, both in the realm of the economic and the strategic context. However, energy security is a complex concept governed by the principle of securing long-term access and availability of energy resources at competitive price, which is decisive factor by determining sustained growth of the economy. The conclave has two themes for 2 days. On day one, the focus on sustainability, sustainable energy and interplay of source diversification, uninterrupted supply and low carbon cost effective technology. The inaugural session, which will feature the panel discussion on energy security, will pave the way for the discussion for the 2 days. Over the next 2 days, we will try to answer questions like, what policy incentives will ensure a greater access to the clean energy, how to improve energy efficiency and create benchmark of conservation, how to expand energy access through renewable and distributed form of energy while deploying smarter technologies to better connect our communities, and many others. In this context, I would only like to add that the relevance of environment and energy conclave stems from the fact that it is a sustainable program which does not stay confined within the boundaries of the 2 days of deliberation. We have always focused on contemporary issues of relevance, and that's why we takeaway have been very highest order. India is fuel-hungry country. Given the current compulsion of limited fossil fuel availability and global warming, we are not only talking potential in new technologies and energy sources which will help us lower emissions without compromising on our energy requirement, but we are also looking at futuristic application of technology which may be well within our reach. We have an excellent array of speakers from the national and international spheres, and we have very interesting 2 days ahead for the discussion. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May we now request Mr. Arun Mukherjee, Chairperson of the Energy and Environment Committee of the Chamber, to take the proceedings forward.
Thank you. Good morning to everybody. May I now request our Honorable Minister in Charge, Power and Non-Conventional Energy Sources, Government of West Bengal, Mr. Monish Gupta, to address us.
Good morning. Initially I must say it's a great pleasure to be able to have come here to meet so many interesting people. We have on the dais today Mr. Kollal Dotto, who is President of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce. We have Mr. Sunil Mitra, who is an old colleague of mine, a very well-known figure in financial circles in the central government and in the state. We have Mr. Arun Mukherjee, who is the chairman of the Energy Committee of Bengal Chamber of Commerce. We have Mr. Phil Marker, Councillor and Head, Climate and Growth Unit of British High Commission, New Delhi. And Mr. Parekh hasn't come, is yet? Yes, okay. I see many old friends in the audience. It's a pleasure. Mr. Alok Mukherjee, Abhijit Sen, Dr. Suman Mukherjee, and many others. I must tell you that I don't have a prepared speech. I think I missed out on that because of the short notice. But I think it's pretty dreary to hear people reading out continuously passages from written papers. So I hope that what I want to do today is to be able to react, to interact with you, to exchange ideas. Because just because I'm standing on the podium doesn't mean that I am the end-all of all knowledge. I have to learn. You know, every time in life there are certain stages in which we have to take stock of what is happening around us. Today is such a day that we are going to take stock of what's happening in the energy sector, what moves are being made in the country to ensure that there's minimum disturbance in the climate regime, and what needs to be done for the future. If you look at the planning process, after all measures that the government has to take, or the other participants and stakeholders have to take in the country, is clearly dependent on policy programming. And policy programming means that the government has to be the leader. Economic development has been described variously in various forums. But we can say that economic development probably is a set of measures that is initiated by the government to achieve preset goals in the shortest possible time. Time is a big factor here. Preset goals are important, timing is a big factor. Over the years, if we assess what the planning process has delivered to the country, you have a variety of experiences. In the first 5-year plan, we had achieved a growth rate of 11%, which was quite a earth-shaking kind of a revelation. But later on, when they analyzed it, they realized that a lot of river valley projects which had been completed or started before the first 5-year plan were completed within the first 5-year plan. And hence the growth rate showed an increased index. But then on, we kept on changing our policies. We had accent on agricultural goals, saying that 80% of the people of India were dependent on agriculture at that time. So the planners thought that we must strengthen agriculture, we must invest in agriculture, to the sort of partial exclusion of other sectors. But that didn't yield the required rate of growth that we had planned, which was about, they said that to have a sustained rate of growth, a self-sustained rate of growth should be around 8%. Later they changed the accent, said that we have to also develop industry and we should go for a mixed economy, agriculture industry. We should follow the successes that have been registered in countries like Russia, etc., and install heavy industry to activate the growth process. But even that didn't work out because we achieved a growth rate of 3.5%, 4%. And slowly this planning process degenerated from 5-year plans to annual plans, that we were losing the plot somewhere. Now, in the last 3-4 years, we have seen The growth rate has been 6%, 7%, 7.5%. Now, economic growth is in a sense also dependent on energy consumption. You see, economic growth is 8%. The energy consumption rate will be about 6.8%. I mean, it's close. It follows very closely together. So energy consumption is an index of economic growth, like investment, as we say. There is no growth without investment. So investment is also an index of economic growth. So in the end, we have to look at all these aspects and see that how we are able to monitor, how we be able to best serve the interests of the nation. Now, when we talk about energy, there are three sources of energy, that is fossil fuels, coal, gas and oil. Now, coal is the most dominant fuel, the most dominant factor in the energy scenario. You will see a lot of writing in the press, in the media, about developing renewable sources of energy, and that is the solution. We have to do that very fast. It is true that we need to harness renewable sources of energy, but the fact remains that till 2020, 2030 also, coal will still be the dominant fuel. Thermal power, we have to depend on thermal power. Now, thermal power needs to be looked at in a broader perspective. Today, our demand-supply situation in coal is such that is more than 200 metric tons shortage in domestic production. Now, this 200 million tons. Now we are importing this coal from Indonesia, Australia, South America. So people say that, okay, if domestic coal cannot be produced, we will import and we will make up the shortage. But there are huge risks involved in importation of coal. In Indonesia, you all know, many of you are from the coal sector, that the rules, regulations, procedures, framework, etc. in Indonesia keep on changing. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. In South Africa, although they have coal reserves, they are not able to build the infrastructure to bring the coal to the ports. There are a lot of coal reserves. Madagascar has coal reserves. They cannot harness that coal. Australia, because of a 30% additional duty on green energy development, that has now become prohibitive. So at the end of the day, we need to increase, maximize our own coal production in the country if we are to meet the energy requirements of the future. This is energy security. In one sense, we have always urged, from this state we have been urging the central government that you need to publish an energy security policy. We don't have that. We don't have the energy security policy. The Planning Commission had set up a task force to look into this aspect, saying that planning has to precede action and measures that may be prescribed to control the situation. But that has not happened. We have been talking about coal regulator. They say that we have huge coal reserves, but much of it is not being harnessed. And then coal regulator needs to look at the cost of coal, because people who use power, electricity, need to get the power at a reasonable rate. We are finding that over the last 3 years, Coal India has unilaterally increased the prices of coal. As a result, the tariff is going up. Now, they are not talking about pooling coal, meaning bringing domestic coal to the ports, or bringing imported coal, mixing the two coals, having a price, a reserve price or an average price. But that average price will not suit certain states, even like our state. Why should we pay more for coal? Because coal is being imported for bigger players in other states. So there is a disparity in terms, or lack of objectivity. And the coal regulator is a must. More important that we have regulators in every sector. Telecom regulators there, we have regulation in banking, we have various regulators. But why energy, which is the basic requirement of all sectors of society, be it domestic, industrial, be it commercial, so why adequate importance is not being given to the coal sector? Why has not a coal regulator been set up? We have not prescribed the framework. We have said that we need regulation in the coal sector. This has not happened. This is most unfortunate. At the same time, energy security policy is an issue that we have been agitating for some time. We need a policy in the sense that if we have to build up even renewable energy sources, like solar or wind or biogas, we need to provide subsidies so that as an incentive to start with, people have to invest. We have recently announced a renewable energy policy last year. The state has announced a renewable energy policy in which we have tried to lay down the framework as to how we need to take this initiative forward. Now, to take this initiative forward, we also need the support of the private sector, because one must be very clear. Renewable energy is usually not an energy which is provided for by the government. The government acts as a catalyst. We need the private sector invests in renewable energy sources. But you have to make it worth their while. You have to provide incentives so they come in to invest, and there's a momentum is gained in course of time. If you look at the other sources of energy like gas, we are now importing LNG. Our gas exploration efforts in this country have not yielded the results that we expected. We are importing gas today. It's almost about 27% of the total energy is provided by gas. And this is bound to go up to about 47 or 50% even in the next 3-4 years. By the end of the 12th five-year plan, the gas is going to be imported again. So this dependence, where the energy sector is concerned, on imported fuels is fraught with risk. Thereby, we need to take a harder look at not only the methodologies, but at the economic benefits that would accrue from developing domestic sources. Along with the energy, we have to also not forget that after all, what is energy for? It is for human development. You all probably know that Dr. Amartya Sen and Joseph Stiglitz, both Nobel Prize winners. Joseph Stiglitz was till recently a regular